and welcome. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and I'm just going to jump right into my favorite horror with author, final guy, YouTuber, Jason Brant. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. You know what? I'm just going to jump right in and start with a question that I asked Tim Meyer, and that is,
Can't believe you had him on before me.
I couldn't. Well, this was off the air, but I told you I couldn't find you. How did you become a final guy?
I actually, I came up with the Final Guy's idea years ago, and I had watched the two morons, Jack and Hunter, and I'd kind of become friendly with them online and just through their Monster Men show. And I just had this idea for a podcast because the three of us, we'd never met, but we'd always talked about all these obscure movies we were watching and new stuff. It's just the three of us just kind of always did that on Twitter and stuff. And I thought of having a show where we kind of pooled everything we watched every week and gave people recommendations and whatever would be a good idea. So I asked them if they wanted to do it with me. I don't know why they said yes, and the ball got rolling from there.
How long has it been going on?
Oh, well, we're in episode 230 something, so over 4 years, like going on 4.5, something like that.
Do you occasionally miss a week?
I think I have missed 1 week, maybe like last Christmas. I was just, or Thanksgiving or something. I was going to be out of town for almost 2 weeks, and I was like, to hell with it. These guys miss every other week. I have never missed one. We're just not posting one time. So maybe again this year, but I think the holidays are on the weekend. I think Saturday is Christmas, so we might not even miss one this year.
Let's see. I can just reach over here and look. Yep, Christmas on a Saturday. Unfortunately, I do miss on occasion because I have crazy work hours, and sometimes I have to get up way too early in the morning and can't stay up and watch. But then I can catch it on YouTube, of course. Not live, but it's always more fun when it's live.
Yeah, we don't have a huge live audience, but the people who show up, the comments always make it fun. I always get a kick out of it. And it's a good way to make sure we all actually show up for the podcast every week, or most of us, if we have an exact time and date, we have to do it every week. Otherwise, we end up, I did a podcast before that, and I would just kind of float around whenever, and I ended up not doing it most of the time.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know out there in YouTube land, what is the format of Final Guys?
Well, we basically start by, it's 4 of us now. Tim joined us last year during the pandemic. That was a mistake asking him to join, but we're stuck with it. We basically go over any horror news that's come out this week, which is usually just crap because the news has been terrible for like a year and a half. And then we go over 3 or 4 movies, books, games, whatever that each of us consumed that week and give it a, thumbs up, thumbs down, check it out, whatever. Tell everyone where to get it. We have all the links in the show notes for anything we talk about. And then we have a main feature that we kind of all review for the last half hour or so.
Yeah. It's I enjoy it.
It's a lot of drinking and stupidity.
Yes, there's drinking words.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's a nonsense. We're talking about horror, but it's like 75% pathetic comedy show.
I mean, it's all good, but I think I like the. I don't remember what the title for it is, but the part where you talk about everybody talks about what they've read, what they've watched.
I think the tagline's curation, but we actually call it something out loud every week. But yeah, that's what most people say. That's their favorite part is, maybe they get a gem or two in there that we've caught somewhere.
Exactly. And sometimes Tim and Jason haven't heard of a movie that Jack has watched, such as this past, of this recording this past week.
What the hell was that? The Addiction or something? Yeah. I'd never heard of that somehow. I still don't get it.
And I've never seen it. I believe I heard of it. There's a book called Strange Blood, 71 essays on vampire movies, something like that.
Okay.
Hunter has a piece in there on the vampire lovers.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
But it also, someone wrote one on addiction, and I believe that's where I had initially heard about it when I read that book. But I kind of expect you guys to like know it all.
Yeah, there are a few every month that somebody says something, and I'm like, man, somehow that just slipped through, like right past my radar. And or I'll discover one like this weird slasher from the '80s, just when you think you've seen them all, and one pops up on Prime or Tubi or something, and it's like, oh, shit, all right, here we go. Missed that in a video store.
With all the streaming services, there's just so much out there to find.
Oh man, and I get into some obscure movies at times. I don't talk about them on Final Guys all that much because a lot of them aren't horror, but I watch some weird shit that probably wasn't even released until recently because of something like Vinegar Syndrome or whatever.
Yeah, I love the companies that are releasing a lot of these obscure movies, remastering, adding new extras.
Yeah, they're doing God's work.
Exactly. Now, your other YouTube show, So Bad It's Good.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the genesis of that?
Again, drinking. So I found a VHS tape in the 90s, maybe 95, at a giant flea market called Rock and Roll Nightmare. And I took it home. I started watching. I'm like, this is a giant piece of shit. And I just put it away. I never finished it. And then I want to say I was maybe 17, 18, and a buddy of mine were just laughing at some bad movie that was on cable. And I said, I have this VHS tape. So I found it, put it in, and we were just dying laughing now that we knew like it was bad. And that just kind of got this ball rolling for me that went into college, where I would just find these really terrible sci-fi channel level movies. And, on a Saturday night, when we were all partying, I would just put this on and we would just all howl laughing. And, fast forward to when I'm in my 30s, and I thought, this maybe could be a funny kind of YouTube show. So my buddy and I just started watching them and putting together the worst videos you've ever seen. I mean, our early stuff is brutal. Changed the format over the years a little bit and changed equipment and all kinds of stuff. And I feel like we're starting to dial it in now. And it's starting to pay off. Our views actually this week just took a massive jump. So I feel like we're starting to find a niche a little bit.
Nice. Well, you have added a temporary or a recurring member to your cast.
Oh, my wife? Or
yes.
Are you talking about Dave? Okay.
No.
Yeah, so the plan going forward is to have people pop in if they're available. That way, if my friend can't make it, which is basically what happened during COVID, he couldn't make it. And right. I don't want to stop recording again for that length of time. I want to do a weekly show. So if he can't make it, somebody can fill his space. If someone else can't make it, my wife can jump in. So
I don't remember which movie it was, but it was, you had the mask on and had a spray bottle, and he kept touching the DVD or Blu-ray case, whatever it was, and you kept wiping it off.
I think that was the one we did right when COVID started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before anything was locked down, nothing was happening yet. I think that was the last one we recorded, probably for over a year, probably 15 months or so. Yeah.
Now, the most recent one, you had a movie that you did not finish in the video. Did you finish watching at all the Steven Seagal Against the Dark?
No, but we watched a lot more than made it into the video, but okay. I did not notice the camera had stopped recording. We got to about 20 minutes left, and I just happened to look up. I'm like, the screen turned off. And I got up and I'm touching it. I'm like, oh my God, it stopped recording. And I had no idea when. And we all were so sick of that pile of shit movie that we were like, to hell with it. We're watching something else. So till I went and dumped the memory cards on my computer and put them back in, we just picked a different movie. I'll finish it eventually just because I'm a completist, but it was brutal.
I've watched a ton of episodes, possibly all of them. I'd have to go back and look, but has there been another movie that you just did not finish?
No, that's the only one. And we would have finished it if not for the memory card. And we actually had some really funny stuff of us ragging on it because of how boring and stupid it was. And that's the kiss of death for that show for me. If the movie is bad. That's what I'm looking for. I'm
Right.
looking for bad movies, but boring is just the worst. And that movie was people walking around a hospital in the dark. That's all it was. It was Steven Seagal's fat ass lumbering around in shadows. That's all it was.
It looked
So,
horrible.
yeah, I mean, I've watched The Howling 7 twice, and that's the worst movie I've ever seen. But it had like some kind of entertainment value because it was so incomprehensibly bad. This is just boring.
Now, do you have a certain criteria for how you pick the movies that you're going to watch for the show?
Well, I try to find stuff that I'm hoping will be so bad that it's good and not just bad. So I'm trying to do that, or at least that's what I've always done. So we've gotten through a lot of classics, like what was our early stuff? You know, we would do like Roadhouse and Bloodsport and Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
First of
Troll
all,
2.
Roadhouse is one of the greatest movies ever made.
It absolutely is. I love that movie. It is ridiculous.
I went to see that movie multiple times in the theater.
Oh, really?
And I was in I was in California. I was in the Air Force. I was in California when it came out. And I went to see it. And then I had about a month at home because I was going to Iceland. So while I was at home, I went to see it a few more times. And then when I was up in Iceland, when it finally got to the base in Iceland, I was on duty. And I worked at a little radar site. So when they got a movie, it was a one-time showing. So I was on duty. I talked someone asked for a favor and had one of my compatriots, come and work the front gate for 2 hours for me so I could go and see it again.
So you're a fan a little bit.
I mean, it's a ridiculous movie, but it's great. So entertaining. It's
I can't tell you how many times I've watched that movie. I love it.
I used to know it by heart. I read Legends of the Fall because that's the book he's reading in the movie.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, not because I was like, ooh, I got to read what Patrick Swayze's reading. It was just, I could see what book it was, and it just made me curious. I was like, oh, I'll have to check that book out, see what he's reading in there.
I want to be Sam Elliott as I get older. Like, he is what I strive to be. Sam Elliott from that movie. I don't remember what his name was anymore, but I want to be him.
I should know that. But yeah, he's fantastic in that movie.
He kills me.
Well, because I watched the show, and I like a lot of super low budget, super independent films.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the kind of thing that you do. Is it the kind of thing that would interest you to do, or are you sticking with, I mean, not all Steven Seagal's have had theatrical releases, but
so the reason we do all the Seagal is because that gets the best views by a mile. That's what's growing my channel the most. But I mean, we do some, like we did Cyborg Cop 2. That's super low budget, like B movie kind of thing, but super fun. So we like finding those things, but it's got to be ridiculous. Like, I'm not just looking for a good movie that's good. I'm trying to find stuff that is so ridiculous that people just love it.
See, the thing that comes to my mind is Carousel.
I've never even heard of that.
It's, and the sequel just came out, Carousel 2.
Of course. It's
about a carousel unicorn that may or may not be a Nazi that comes to life. But the thing is, again, this is super low budget. So it's literally a carousel unicorn. It's never animated. It's just a solid, still carousel unicorn. But I think the movie's absolutely hilarious. There's he uses a pizza cutter as a weapon.
Is it purposely hilarious? Like, it's half comedy, or like what were they thinking? Hilarious?
I mean, there's no way that they thought they were making Predator. Okay. I'm looking at your posters in the background. But it's super low budget, bad effects. Although in the second one, some of the gore effects are actually really nice.
Okay. So like that stuff I'll watch on my own because I enjoy that. But it's typically, if it's a purposely making like a cheesy movie, I don't want that. I want something where somebody was trying to hit a home run, and they, I don't know, just completely whiffed.
I'm not sure it's, I wouldn't say it's like one of the later Sharknadoes, or even the original, where they're really just, they know they're making cheese.
Tongue in cheek, yeah.
They know it's low budget. I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely meant to be funny. I don't know that it's completely meant to be cheesy. Well, yeah, it has to be. Some of the stuff that's I just watched the second one recently, and I love the fact that this is a unicorn. He has a horn on his head, and yet never uses that to kill anybody. Uses guns, shears like in The Burning. Yeah, absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I've never heard of that. That sounds ridiculous. We've started other movies, and it was like, you know what, they're trying to make a bad movie here, so we're not gonna cover that. And we also typically don't do movies that are newer, except for Seagal, because to hell with him.
Right.
We typically don't do newer movies because I'm not trying to trash something that somebody just put out that they worked hard on and it just completely didn't turn out right. But you know, I don't want to. I hate seeing bad reviews for my stuff. I don't want somebody just, you know, trying to find reviews and seeing two drunk idiots laughing at their shit. So we try to do stuff that's a little older, so the sting isn't there, and maybe it's a movie they're not Googling trying to find reviews for.
I had one video of mine on YouTube that got pulled. I peeled it and it's back now, but I can only imagine it's because someone got mad that it was a negative review.
For a book or a movie?
A movie. I was doing, and I haven't done this in years, but I was doing the whole watching a movie every day in October. And then I would do a quick review. As soon as I was done with the movie, I'd do a quick review. So I had 31 movie reviews in 31 days. And it was an adaptation of The Color Out of Space that was made in Italy, I believe. Has Debbie Rochon in it.
Oh boy.
And I thought it was horrible. It was bad. She was fine. There were some good parts to it, but overall I did not think it was good. I gave it a negative review and it ended up getting pulled.
That's so shitty. Did you use clips from the movie or anything?
I don't have that kind of capability.
That's ridiculous.
So I appealed because, you know, they don't tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
So I just appealed and I said, I went over the guidelines. I said, there's no bad language. There's no racism, you know, or anything like that. Nothing offensive. I said, there's no copyright violations that I can see. I said, at the end of the video, there's a link to the trailer for the movie. So unless that's a copyright violation, there's nothing there. And I must have been convincing because, like I said, they put it back up. But
that's just shitty.
I just think someone saw it and didn't like that I gave it a negative review. I could be wrong about that, maybe. But there's literally nothing offensive in that review.
Yeah, I have to fight the copyright stuff quite a bit because of the clips we put in, but I've kind of got it figured out now. You have to have less than 5 seconds for some of these movies. If it's something really obscure that nobody gives a shit about and isn't in the YouTube system, you're fine. But like, we're going to do a pretty mainstream movie coming up, and I know that's going to be a battle for me to get that monetized.
Oof.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I have no editing software or anything, which is why these things are uncensored and unedited. So I don't have to worry about that kind of thing, putting clips or anything in. And now I just try to only do positive reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Since I don't accept books from anyone, I don't feel obligated to review a book that I didn't like.
Sure.
And I'm trying to promote the things that I like, trying to promote the authors that I like. So if I give it less than 3 stars, I'm most likely not going to review it.
That's a good policy. I'm the same way with books. I usually will only talk about something I think is 4 or 5 stars. I just don't want to. I don't want to upset someone.
Yeah, well, I used to get books from back when Sam Hain was around.
Mm-hmm.
I was on their reviewers list, got books from them all the time. A couple of others, and like I said, I just felt obligated to read it and review it, and felt bad if I didn't like it. I would
Well, yeah,
still
at the end there,
review it
Sam
because
Hain was publishing stuff that probably should not have been published.
I would still review it because they sent it to me to be reviewed. But then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm off
Sure.
everybody's list. And except on very, very rare occasions, if someone, occasionally I'll still get someone who sends me a message and says, hey, I'm a new author. I can send you a copy of my book. And I'm like, I'm just not accepting anything.
Yeah, no, that's a good policy. I mean, I say I do that as if I don't have a channel that goes these, but like for Final Guys, I try not to review stuff that I really hate. But that's a problem with when we have a main feature. We all have to review it.
Yeah.
So if I don't like it, I'm just like, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't my favorite movie. That really means I did not like it at all. But it was so bad it's good not to worry about. Like we watched stuff like Robo Vampire, which somebody sent me in the mail, which is this. It's our next episode. This Hong Kong insane movie.
I've seen. Oh, yeah, we watched that on Bad Movie Night.
It is a bad movie. It's terrible.
There's a friend of mine hosts a Bad Movie Night every Saturday, and it's through Carousel, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called.
Carousel.
But yeah, no. So she sends a link. Anybody that wants to join in, you click on the link, and then she's showing us the movie, like from her.
Sure.
Whatever. And then there's a comment thing in the side. So of course we're all just doing the MST3K type of thing with the crazy comments. And yeah, that was one of them that we watched not too long ago.
Yeah, somebody sent it to me in the mail, which is something that's nice about So Bad It's Good getting more viewership. People are starting to send me bad movies, which is good because I spend a fortune on these piles of shit. I have to import a lot of them. And he said, hey, watch Robo Vampire. So we put it in, and it's insane. It is an insane movie. I'm doing the edit now, and I'm watching the clips again. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's wild. And a lot more nudity than I expected.
Yeah, there are some weird parts where you're like, why is she naked? What's going on here?
Now, do you look into like trivia and information about them, or do you just...
So we did a trivia on some of the old episodes. My buddy would look up trivia and we'd go over it a little bit, but it didn't really fit the tone of the show as much. And now that particularly now that I'm trying to do weekly episodes, I can't edit all these different camera viewpoints and all this different stuff. So and all the comments were saying the reaction parts that was everyone's favorite part.
Right.
So I thought, well, let's just try to do just us reacting to these ridiculous things and then just talk about it while we're sitting there. And that allows me to edit much faster. Because, some of these are 20, 25-minute episodes. It takes me an enormous amount of time to edit that. So
well, I asked because I believe it was Robot Vampire. That's literally 2 movies put together.
Yeah, so this is our second movie from the director, Godfrey Ho. We did Scorpion Thunderbolt by him earlier. And that seems to be his thing. He buys the rights to some piece of shit that may or may not have been released and then shoots completely random stuff and edits it into the movie, and it just makes nonsense. So it's only our second movie of his, and I love this guy, so we're definitely going to do more in the future. I don't know anything about him, but he must have been insane because this makes no sense.
All right. Well, let's move on to your writing for a moment anyway.
Okay.
So your newest release is the 6th book in the Hunger series, correct?
Yep. Shattered.
Okay. I thought that was what it was. I wasn't going to say, because I wasn't 100% sure. And then, so that's 6 books in that series.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Shenandoah, right?
Nope. That one's not me. I have Asher Benson. That's another series I write. I write West of Hell. I did years ago. I wrote a West of Hell series.
You don't have that Western zombie trilogy?
It's called West of Hell. Yeah. Oh, you're thinking of the individual names. Gehenna, Tartarus, and Sheol are the titles of the 3 books.
I always get it wrong. And I thought I had it right with Shannon. I was like, no, the other name's wrong. It's Shenandoah, but no, it's
like Shenandoah Valley in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's why. Okay. Damn it. I thought I had it right.
That's fine. It's fine. I wrote those a long time ago.
would have been right if I'd gone with the one I thought was wrong. All right, so that's the trilogy, right? And you've got 6 books in the Hunger, and another series.
Yeah, I have an Asher Benson thriller horror series. That's 3 books, 2 short stories, but I'm in the midst of writing 3 more back to back for that. So that'd be 6.
Have you, with each of these, were they always planned as a series or a trilogy in the one case, or is it just that the story grows?
With The Hunger, I initially had a 3-book series idea that I wanted to do, and I'd done West of Hell, but I had not intended for that to be a series. I just wrote the first novella, and then some people didn't like the ending because it has all these religious undertones. I don't know. I haven't read it in a decade. I'm sure it's terrible in their overtones. But I just thought, of a way to continue that series. So I did that just kind of on a whim. I wrote all of those in a month or less. And then the Hunger series, I wrote the first book intending it to be a trilogy. It flopped completely on release. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to at least wrap up this story in 1 more book. So I condensed my idea for the next 2 books down to 1, released it, and I was planning on moving on. And then those 2 books took off. So I'm like, God damn it. So I just, over the years, have come up with more ideas and have just been slowly expanding that series. The Asher Benson books, I came up with a character and an idea that I thought I could just continue through the years. So as ideas for that character hit me, I release another book. But now I have kind of a larger idea that'll probably take at least 2 novels, but I'm thinking 3. And then I'll move on to another series idea I have.
I was just going to say, any new series ideas?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't want to jump into my stuff because I only have maybe 3 standalone novels. Is that right? 4? But honestly, the reason I write in series is because this is what I do for a full-time income. And if I have a 6-book series, I only need to advertise 1 book, and then the rest sell off of that. If I have 6 individual books, I have to advertise 6 individual books, and it takes me freaking forever. And I want to have 50 novels. I don't want to be advertising 50 novels. I want to be advertising maybe 10. So and it just makes me more money. I'm a whore. That's the honest reason. Series do better. So I write series. That's what people want. That's what makes me money. So that's what I do.
Now, which is the first? Gehenna's the first book in the.
Yeah.
Okay, and I read that one, and it's pretty short, I think.
Maybe 30,000 words, something like that.
If I recall.
That's only the second piece of fiction I ever wrote. Like, I'm afraid to even go back and look at it. It's got to be god awful.
Have they? Are you getting longer? Are you keeping them shorter?
What, am I getting longer by keeping them shorter?
No, are you getting them longer or keeping them shorter?
They've been getting longer, particularly the deeper I get into each series as I add more characters, as I world build more. Each book in The Hunger has been longer than the last. Now, it's still not huge. I think the last one was a little under 100,000 words, 95,000 words, something like that. And the first one was maybe 73. So, I'm only adding 3, 4, 5,000 words a book. It's not huge, but it's getting bigger. And then I'm sure.
When are you going to put out like a Malignant Summer chunk?
Probably never. Probably never. Those take a long time to write. They cost an enormous amount of money to edit. I would probably split that into 2 books. We'll see. Plus, for me to pay for that, for me to make that worth my while, I'm gonna have to charge $10 an ebook. $30 for a freaking paperback just to cover printing costs. And I like to compete by keeping my book prices low. And I give away a lot of books for free so that people can try my stuff, see if they like it. And then if they don't, it doesn't cost them anything. A lot of times that keeps them from leaving a bad review because they didn't pay for it. So why go trash it? And then I just get people who like it to continue on. So that's what I did with Gehenna, which worked for West of Hell a little bit. That doesn't sell all that well because I'm sure Gehenna sucks. But with my other stuff, it's what has allowed me to have pretty decent sales in some of these series. I do okay. I do okay on some of these.
Now, I don't want to know anything about numbers or anything, but do you find ebooks sell better than physical copies or vice versa?
It's not even close. Yeah, it's not even close. Now, I also don't push to get into bookstores just because the revenue share is so low. I have to price my books fairly high to make any, decent money on it. Whereas if I sell a $4 ebook, I get $2.75 out of that. If I sell a $15 paperback, I might get $2. Now, if you buy it from Amazon directly, or I'm putting my stuff in Barnes and Noble now because I'm working with a different printer that I'll get better rates with.
Nice.
But I'll get more money if you buy it directly through them. But if you were to go into like a mom and pop bookstore who bought one of my books, I'll get $1. So it's just not worth my time to try to push into those areas.
Right.
So it goes ebooks, audiobooks, and then way, 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 way down are paperbacks.
See, and I'm a physical copy guy.
Sure, I collect books myself. I read an ebook, but I collect paperbacks.
Well, the problem is, and I have a Kindle. There's plenty of stuff on it. I actually just finally gave up on waiting for Hunter's. I forget what the trilogy is called, but the Ratus New Yorkus and Jurassic.
Oh, God. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It'll come to me.
But the first time he did that with the comic book ad stories, again, I can't remember what they're called. That eventually came out in a physical copy, so I got that. I was waiting for these to come out in a physical copy, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. So I finally got those in digital, but I always forget that I have stuff. I almost never read digital because I just forget about it.
No, that's the thing. I can easily hoard books on my Kindle, and then 6 months later, I'm like, what should I read next? Oh, shit, I forgot I bought that. Yeah, no, I do that all the time, but it's easier for me to market. I make more money there. I am starting to make a push in libraries. I feel like for indie authors like myself, that we don't tap into that so much. So I'm starting to really push my stuff into there to see how it goes. But I don't know. That's 2 years from now, I'll have an answer on how the library thing goes.
Okay. Well, let's jump in to our main feature, I guess. I don't have your fancy titles and things that you guys have on Final Guys.
Main feature. There you go. Now you got one.
Although the new one for the news is just the best.
Jack was complaining about not having one. So like 5 minutes before we went live, I made that, and you could tell, but I think it worked.
All right. So before we get into it, for the people out there, there's going to be spoilers. Although, if you haven't seen this
35-year-old movie
by now, but if you're worried about spoilers, you can just pause this video, go watch the movie, and then come back and see us talk about Aliens. That was your pick. I don't have an individual. I just have this box set, so I can't show off a cool Aliens cover.
Yeah, I don't. My disc is downstairs. So
some xenomorph action there. So Aliens was your choice, and before we start breaking it down, getting into all the nitty gritty of it, for the one person out there who's never seen it, can you give us a quick synopsis of what Aliens is?
So Ellen Ripley survives the first alien encounter. She goes into, what are they called? Hypersleep in this? I don't remember.
I think so.
She gets lost in space for almost 60 years. When she's found, the world has changed. There's a colony living on the planet that the alien ship was on. And the organization, yes, they ask her to go back with a group of colonial Marines to investigate because they've lost contact with the colony. And she agrees to go because of some pretty hardcore PTSD she's dealing with. And shit goes very sideways when they arrive on the planet.
Yep, that's a good, nice little synopsis there.
Nice.
So why did you pick this? And I guess especially why this over the original?
So I was trying to decide what movie to do because, everybody likes The Thing, Halloween. Those are all classics for everybody. And I mean, look, I think most people think Aliens is a classic as well. But when people talk about their favorite horror movies, I never really hear this come up. I always only hear the first one come up. And this one had a bigger impact on me when I was younger and when I decided to get into writing because of how propulsive the story is. I mean, it is, once they hit that planet, it is go, 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 go. and they kind of figure things out on the fly and come up with a plan on the fly. And I just dig all of that. I think action is incredible. And I also think a lot of people think of this as an action movie more than a horror movie, which is fair. But the first time I saw this, it scared the ever living shit out of me. The aliens coming out of the walls, and there's crazy gore when the Marines are getting killed. So I just dug the hell out of it. So this movie is reflects more of my writing style that I've kind of adopted, which is a lot of action, more than the first. I love the first. I mean, don't get me wrong, but that's a much slower paced kind of haunted house slashery kind of movie, and this is just like balls to the wall action horror. So I love it. I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough in our
kind of a
circles.
creature feature.
Yeah, exactly.
So I watched it today. I finished it about 15, 20 minutes before we started talking. Wow. And I have not seen it in a long, long time. So I don't know if it's because I'm older, but I was watching it with a more critical eye, looking at different things. It originally came out, I was in basic training when it originally came out.
Okay.
Which is showing my age.
Probably hit you at a good time, though.
What's that?
You probably really liked it at that time, right?
Oh, yeah. But I don't know. I just seem to notice a lot of things that I don't remember noticing. As far just character-wise, story-wise, filmmaking-wise. And of course, I mean, I still love it. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Definitely more of an action movie than the original.
Did you watch the extended version or the original theatrical?
Oh, that's right. I chose to watch the theatrical cut.
I wish I had when I rewatched this. I did the extended, and the theatrical is significantly better.
There's this box set has all four of the original movies, and 2 versions of each one.
Okay, nice.
So let me see. It's one of those nice little booklet DVD or Blu-ray things.
Fancy set.
Yeah. But let's see. So this has where to go. So it's got theatrical version of the original and director's cut with Ridley Scott introduction for the original. Aliens has theatrical version and special edition with James Cameron introduction.
Oh, so it's not a director's cut. It's some special edition producer's cut or something, maybe. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Alien 3 has theatrical version and 2003 special edition restored work print version.
Does that mean it's less shit?
Yeah, I don't know. And because I've been focusing on like the theatrical versions because those are the ones I know, and then I'll go back and then the Alien Resurrection has theatrical version and 2003 special edition with Jean-Pierre Jeunet introduction. And they all have commentaries and special features and all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I chose to watch the theatrical version.
Good for you. It's paced much better.
And I don't think that there's any mention of Ripley's daughter in the theatrical version. Is there in the...
Yeah, quite a bit at the beginning. There's a whole scene in the theatrical at the beginning. Really, they don't bring that up? Huh?
No, because I was waiting for it. Because is she already dead, the daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And no, she's on the ship. The people find her. She wakes up in the hospital. Burke tells her she's been asleep for 57 years. She has the nightmare that she's got a chest burster. She wakes up again. And then it basically cuts to her in her quarters when Burke's coming to... Or no, it cuts to her in the conference room talking to the corporation guys.
I guess in my mind, I've mixed up the 2 versions over the years because I haven't seen this in a long time. So, okay. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I was waiting for that about how, your daughter grew up and she died. And it's no mention.
Huh. Yeah, to me, that, that actually I like more in the extended then because that makes a lot of the stuff with Newt later in the movie more intense because you can see why she's really attached to this girl beyond the fact that she's just a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but right off the bat, for me, the beginning of the movie has some wonderful filmmaking. One of the things I did notice, though, of course, better TVs, watching Blu-ray, some of the effects, especially the matte effects, are very obvious.
Yeah, I noticed that too. In the extended edition, there were a lot of flying scenes I don't remember, particularly towards the end of the movie. And I'm like, yeah, that's why they cut those out of the theatrical because that shit isn't working anymore. All the practical stuff, like the puppetry and the creature effects, is phenomenal. Right. But yeah, some of the matte paintings and some of the models flying, I'm like, VHS. That was meant for VHS.
There's one point where I think I saw a string on the landing ship, but I was trying to see. I was like, maybe it's an antenna, and I just can't tell because it was going up past the top of the screen essentially, and I'm like, is that supposed to be just like a little tiny wire antenna on the ship, or is that a string I'm seeing?
We'll go with string.
Possibly, quite possibly. But some of the stuff, again, filmmaking wise, that I don't remember is like when you see at the beginning Ripley in the hypersleep chamber after they've found her, and we've got her profile, and it fades into the curvature of the earth.
Okay. Yep.
And little effects like that, things like when they cut into the ship that she's on, there's all that smoke, and as the beam is passing through, you have that great effect of
it looks
smoke
super
and
cool,
light, and it really looks really cool. And
again, it's just shining a light through the dusty room, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, there were points where I was like, man, I kind of wish I was watching this for the first time because I already know what's going to happen with Burke. You know, I already know certain things, and it I miss the surprise of that sort of thing.
His character twist is done really well. I was kind of paying attention to it, rewatching it. I was like, they don't give away much of it until they're on the planet. He seems like a good dude.
Right.
They do a good job.
He's the corporate guy that's your friend.
Right, but the android is the one that you're like, oh, that Lance Henriksen. And you just look at his face. You're like, man, that guy looks intense. I don't know about him.
Well, this cast is so amazing.
It is. It really is.
You've got Sigourney Weaver. I love Michael Biehn, is how I always pronounce it.
Yeah, I do too.
And Lance Henriksen, huge fan. Bill Paxton, who's essentially playing Chet from Weird Science.
Oh my God, he is a legend in this movie.
But again, I'd forgotten how great all of the characters of the Colonial Marines are, and the relationships.
And Wisbowski. Like, even if you don't know their names, they do such a good job. I feel like this movie and The Thing, they do a great job setting up characters that you can differentiate and you know who they are without going into backstory on them, just because the casting is so good and they individualize either their styles or the way they speak or interact so well that you just get a feel for them without spending a lot of time developing them.
Right off the bat, when they're on their way to LV-246.
Sure.
I think that's the planet. And the hypersleep chamber's open, and Apone, the sergeant, apparently went into hypersleep with a cigar in his hand, because the chamber opens and he immediately has a cigar in his mouth, puts it in his mouth.
Yeah, he like blinks and opens his eyes and puts a cigar in. That's just a great character moment.
Yes. And then the relationship between Drake and Vasquez.
Yep.
Just, I think the best way I can put it anyway, they're not in love, but they love each other. They know they have each other's backs. They're the best of friends.
Yeah, exactly. And they have like 3 lines of dialogue together during that scene. But just them working out and pull-ups and walking around, like you just get that feel right away.
And I had forgotten, because everybody knows, Hudson, Bill Paxton, and the whole game over, man, game over. But when they first get to the planet and they're first going into the buildings, you can see they work as a unit. There may be personality clashes when they're off duty or whatever, but they're working, and he knows his job.
Yeah,
And
he
they
doesn't
call him up.
suck. He's a
Bust
badass.
this.
He just whines the whole time.
You got to get this door open, and he just goes up there and does his mechanical stuff and gets the door open. And I'd completely forgotten all those little things.
I
Because
don't know if he made them do any kind of like a short little boot camp kind of thing to get them to interact well with each other, but I don't know if he did that with them or not, but it looks like they went through something.
I was just reading some trivia right before we started, and they said that they filmed the scene of them all coming out of the cryosleep pods last so that they would have that natural chemistry and camaraderie because they'd filmed all the other stuff first.
Ah, interesting.
And they'd worked together for months. And so when we're being introduced to the characters, that's natural chemistry and everything.
The banter feels real. Okay, that's like you said, that's pretty good filmmaking right there.
Yeah. Man, it's just like I said, it's been so long since I've seen it, and I don't know why, because having watched it again, I'm just like, why would I not watch this every year?
When I was in high school and college, I watched this shit religiously. Like if I was like, man, I don't want to work out, I'm going to put on a scene from Aliens, and I'm like, I'm going to the gym now to kick some ass. But, you know, for some reason over the last 10 years, it has just kind of slipped from my radar. So when you asked, I was like, man, what do I want to rewatch that kicks ass? But yeah, I was thinking of another scene do a really good job just kind of getting into the characters of the Marines without necessarily telling you much. And it's when Ripley is talking to them about the alien, and they're like, is this another bug hunt?
Yeah.
And they just have like 2 or 3 lines in there, and you know they've done shit like this before.
Yeah.
Without going into any kind of story about it, just what they say and their reaction to it, like they're annoyed and bored. If it's just a bug hunt. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, basically they're like, just tell us where to point our guns. We've been through this.
Yep.
But even the lieutenant is not a bad guy. He's just green.
Inexperienced. Yeah.
And before the shit hits the fan, he seems to be doing his job and doing it well. As he's watching on all the cameras and he's guiding them, it's just when the pressure comes down that
he melts down a little bit.
But then he redeems himself at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, even that. I mean, that's, you know, something a lot of guys who go into, you know, go to the Middle East or whatever, having a green lieutenant, you know, leading you in your charge of Humvees. It's not what you want. And I just like how that still felt relevant the way they did that. It's just good stuff. All these hardened guys led by a dude who just can't hack it.
Well, I mean, we had that. I was never in a combat situation, but we did have that in the air when I was in the Air Force. You know, you had these master sergeants and guys that had put in the time. They know what's going on. They know what they're doing. And you get these green lieutenants, but because they're an officer, they believe. Not all of them were like that, but we did have some that they know better because they're an officer.
Yep.
And I know better than the guy that's been doing this for 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought they did a good job of that. And like you said, he's not a bad guy. He just, what do you say was his second drop into a combat?
Yeah. Like, yeah. They ask him, how many drops have you done? He's like, 58 simulated. Like, how many combat drops? Like 2, counting this one.
That's just good dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well written. It's well directed. Of course, James Cameron.
I think he's a genius. I think people rag on him because of Titanic and Avatar being his last 2 movies. But I mean, I will hold Aliens and Terminator 2 up against anyone else's 2 movie canon. Like those 2 movies I can watch on repeat.
And that seems to be the consensus, but I'm the one that I prefer Terminator.
I love Terminator, don't get me wrong.
To T2.
Yeah, I love
But
Terminator.
again, it's almost the same thing to me. Terminator is a horror movie. T2 is an action movie.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And it's close, but I do prefer Alien to Aliens. But it's incredibly close. So yeah, Cameron directed, wrote the screenplay. David Giler has a story by credit, as well as James Cameron and what's his name? Dan O'Bannon. Walter Hill. Oh, Walter Hill has a story by credit as well.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, Cameron does a great job. Excuse me. Just even before they get to the planet, when it's just the person stuff, I don't think it ever gets boring. I don't think it ever gets bogged down.
I don't think so either.
And Sigourney Weaver does such a great job portraying the PTSD.
She does. This is why I love James Cameron so much. Everyone's arguing and fighting now over trying to do strong female characters in movies. And I feel like what they're doing a lot of times in movies in particular right now, but you're seeing it in comic books and novels. They're trying to make the strong female characters too much like men instead of strong female characters. Mm-hmm. And I just look at this movie and I look at Linda Hamilton and the Terminator, the first two, and I'm like, that's how you do it. You can make them badass without making them dudes.
Right.
And I feel like she totally nails her progression at the beginning from being scared and having nightmares to a complete badass by the end of this movie is just a great arc.
I wonder from a story standpoint now, how much of that has to do with Newt coming into the story.
That's a good point.
And her desire to protect Newt. And again, if you've watched the special edition, the fact that she's lost not just 57 years with her daughter, but her daughter completely because her daughter died while she was in hypersleep.
That's a great point, because the first time that I can think of when she goes ahead of the Marines is when they see Newt, when she runs across the hallway. That's the first time she kind of takes charge. It's just like her mother instinct kicks in or something, and she goes after the little kid when all the Marines are like swearing because they shit themselves because something ran in front of them. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it like that, but I think you're right.
Which isn't to say she isn't a badass, because she's already proven that. But at the beginning of this film, again, she's suffering from the PTSD. She refused to go back. Yeah. And they, had to talk her into it. And up to a point, she refused to. She's like, I'm not going down to the planet. I'll go, but I'm not going down to the planet.
Right.
But she eventually does that as well. And then
it's a good progression. It feels earned. It feels very earned.
And then again, Lance Henriksen is Bishop, and her distrust because of what happened with Ash in the first movie, which turns, he proves himself to her.
Which I feel like leads to the ultimate payoff of when he gets ripped in half at the end, because you finally trust the guy and you're like, okay, it's not like the first one. And then they just obliterate him. And it's just such an oh shit moment.
And then is it his last line when he says, not bad for a human?
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Just great all around. Are there any particular scenes, anything in particular you wanted to bring up or discuss?
Well, talking about the horror, I think when the Marines first are going into the aliens, like a nest, for lack of a better word, where they find the people up in the walls, that to me is just straight horror. The way Cameron shoots it, so you're seeing it in like a first-person perspective, almost like a found footage kind of thing. You're seeing all the Marines' cameras. Mm-hmm. That shit, when I first saw this movie, I don't know that I'd ever seen anything like that. And even now, it holds up so well. It almost looks like they shot it on VHS tapes. So it's gritty and grainy and looks like shit. And you're watching it on a camera monitor, and everything is just flipped upside down. And these badasses are panicking. They're running. They're screaming. People are getting dragged to the ceiling. Acid. I mean, it's just total mayhem. I absolutely love that scene.
And not only do you have the creep factor of them finding these people cocooned to the walls,
which was not in the first one, so that was new to this movie.
It's in the director's cut, I believe.
Somebody stuck into the stuff on the wall?
Yeah, I think she finds Dallas.
Oh, maybe I'm not remembering that then.
Stuck in the wall, but I'm pretty sure that's the director's cut.
I don't think I've ever seen the director's cut.
Or it could just be a deleted scene that's on one of the things.
I got to revisit it. Okay, I didn't know that.
But they're finding the dead bodies, and then one of them is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then something starts to burst.
Oh God, that scene's so killer.
But the thing, all of that is creepy, but the creepiest part to me of that scene is when the xenomorphs just start unfolding from the walls and the ceiling.
Every time I watch it, I'm trying to see them in the walls.
They're so well camouflaged, and then they just slowly unfurl.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
It's just creepy as hell.
And most of it's just man in suit stuff, but it looks so damn good. They must have been doing some wire work with these guys because they're kind of running on the walls, and it just you could do that now, and I feel like it would completely hold up. I mean, it looks fantastic. You know, the stuff in space, some of the ship stuff doesn't hold up, but the man in the costume stuff looks freaking awesome.
They do. The designs are just still fantastic. The Queen looks amazing.
God, there are one or two shots in there where they did some. They were trying to show Ellen Ripley in front of her, and it's like, you definitely like composited two shots and didn't get the lighting right. But when it's the Queen by herself, it's like, oh my God, that just looks amazing.
Well, when Ellen, I mean, we're jumping to the end, but when she torches the eggs and then throws some grenades and there's explosions, it's clearly her in front of a projection screen.
Yeah. It doesn't look very good.
And there was another shot where it was clearly that, but I can't remember which one that was. One of the other creepy ones is when they're looking at the proximity monitor or whatever they call it, and they're getting closer and closer. And where are they? They'd be in the room. That's in the room. Where? It's
inside the door. Yeah. That's a great scene. I don't know who thought that up. I'm guessing it was Cameron. Having the motion sensor beep, and it beeps faster the closer they get, is so good at adding tension. It's one of those ideas that I'm like, why do I write? I am never going to come up with an idea that good. Like, that is so genius. And you just, even if you're not thinking about it while you're watching the movie, you're just hearing it in the background, just beeping a little faster. And everybody's shitting their pants, and that thing is just going off. It's like a heartbeat increasing. It's just brilliant. And I actually just thought of a line of dialogue that I really like that I'm sure I noticed before, but I don't think I've seen this movie since I started writing. So I kind of feel like I pay attention to shit maybe I didn't before. When the Marines get their asses kicked and they get outside and they're waiting on the plane to come pick them up, and the alien gets on board and kills the pilot. The pilot is calling for the guy in the back who kind of stuck his hand in some goo. Yeah, and I don't remember what his name was, but she's calling for him. He doesn't answer. She's like, God damn it. And just that moment, you realize she has dealt with this guy's shit for like so many of these drops, and she's annoyed as hell that she has to go back and find him. And she dies right after that. But it was just like one of those little moments that I don't even know her character name. She's in the movie for a minute, but just that moment, I was like, I kind of get a feel for her.
Pharaoh?
You could say it and I wouldn't even know it.
Let me see. Yep. Corporal Pharaoh.
Nice.
Wait. Yes? No? Well, I've been looking through the trivia and IMDb and stuff.
No, we'll just go with you have an amazing memory.
Sure. Let's go with that. Yeah, again, and it's that writing, those little character things that tell us so much without having to tell us.
Yeah, it's one line of dialogue, and I was like, oh man, she's so sick of this guy's shit. And just like the bumbling idiot in the back of her ship.
We can see that everybody's sick of Hudson's shit. But he's part of their crew, you know?
God,
that's the way that works.
His comedic timing in this breaks up the tension in such amazing ways. When he's ranting in the back, yelling "Game over, man," and all that stuff, that is just, he's not even in the forefront of the scene. He's in the back, just ranting and raving. And his dialogue just comes through in between other people trying to figure out what to do, and it's great.
And then, like, when I don't remember the exactly where they're at, but he's freaking out, and Ripley tells him, oh, she wants the schematics, basically, of the base. I don't care if it's the blueprints. I don't care if it's this. I don't care if it's that. I need to know everything. And basically, she knows giving him a task that he can do is going to get his head on.
focuses him.
And he takes a deep breath and is like, okay, let's go.
That's some pretty superior acting by him in that scene, actually, because he's in a full meltdown and he kind of recalibrates, in 10 seconds. He is missed. That guy was such a freaking genius. This movie and Weird Science, I mean, God, I love that guy. True Lies, oh my God, in True Lies.
For me, Frailty.
It's one of my favorites.
Not only is he in it, directed it.
Yeah.
The only thing he directed,
as far as I know,
before he passed away, I know he was supposed to do The Hollow, the Joe Lansdale book.
Really?
Yeah. Damn. And then he passed away, so wasn't able to do that.
Legend.
And then Newt had a lot more dialogue than I recalled.
Yeah, I think I noticed she had like a bit of an English accent or something, some kind of an accent. I don't know. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. But again, she has little moments when they're looking at those schematics. Once Hudson's gotten them, they've got a big table with, it's lit up, and they're trying to find air ducts and things, places to seal off. And in the background, Newt is just like jumping behind them, trying to see what they're looking at. And then she walks around and Hicks picks her up and puts her on the edge of the table so she can see. And it's just a little thing that's not even really germane to the scene.
Yeah.
But it just adds so much.
Yeah, it really does. They're talking, they're formulating their plan, and it's just kind of happening in the background. And you're right. It just really adds a lot. I said earlier, I think James Cameron is either, I think in the horror circles, he's definitely underrated quite a bit, just because, you do Titanic and then you do Avatar, and those are the only movies you've done in 24 years or whatever the hell it's been. I think people forget the stuff this guy made with The Abyss and even True Lies. I mean, he just did some really, really interesting shit. And the guy knows how to do characters incredibly well.
Absolutely. And I love when Ripley's putting Newt to sleep, and Newt's worried about the bad dreams, and she's like, well, Susie, or whatever the doll's head's name was, she doesn't, let's look and see if she has bad dreams. Nope, she doesn't have bad dreams. And Newt's just like, yeah, she's plastic. She doesn't have dreams.
That little girl has been through the shit. She isn't.
You stupid adult.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. The scene that comes after that with the face huggers.
Yeah.
The animatronics they do with those things when they're trying to get on Ripley's face and they're pulling it off and the legs are going, that shit looks real. Like, that doesn't even look like
wrapped around her neck.
It's unbelievable. I don't know how they did that or who did it, but god damn, does that look good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that's a great scene just all around.
Yeah. There's a lot of character moments in there.
And
find out Paul Reiser's an asshole.
Well, yeah, when she wakes up, she and Newt are under the bed. She wakes up, sees that something's amiss, she sees the containers the face huggers were in are now empty, reaches up to the bed where she left the gun, and it's not there. And it's like, oh shit, what the hell? And that's one of those moments where I'm like, I knew this was coming. I kind of wish I was seeing this for the first time.
I'm with you. I was watching. My wife didn't remember any of this, and she was like, "Oh, wow!" I'm like, "Yeah, this is." We saw this in college, but she has a memory of a goldfish when it comes to movies. So if I just wait 5 or 10 years, it's like seeing it for the first time and seeing all these cool scenes. It makes me envious. Because as soon as it gets to that scene, I'm like, "Oh, this is that really good shit."
And then Burke. Again, I feel like in the special edition, maybe his death is longer. Or maybe they didn't film it.
I think it was the same, from what I remember. It's off camera. You don't see it.
Yeah, he's locked the others out, opens the door, turns around. There's a xenomorph.
Yeah, that's when we get Hudson's death, which it sucks because he's like the best character, but he is super badass in that scene.
Yes.
And it shows he's not just like a Weasley little shit that he's been for like the last hour of this movie.
And even Vasquez and the lieutenant's death, sacrificing themselves, and her last line, I've always thought you were always an asshole, or I always thought you were an asshole.
Yeah,
But they're
that's good
both
stuff.
holding on to that grenade.
Yeah, redemption for that guy. And I noticed his character, he gets concussed during their escape, and Hicks takes over command. But when
Right.
that guy wakes up, he never takes over again. Everybody's
Right.
listening to Hicks, even though that guy is supposed to be in charge. He just completely concedes command to Corporal Hicks. And I never noticed that until watching it this time. I was like, wow, that's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
They're in the shit, and everybody knows who to listen to.
Well, I think he realizes what happened. He cracked under the pressure and tried to stop Ripley from driving in and rescuing the Colonial Marines.
Yep.
And then, so I like to think he had that moment where he's like, yeah, the best thing I can do, the smartest thing I can do is step back, let the people that know what they're doing do it.
Yep.
And I'm going to follow. I'm going to do what I need to do.
It. They never
Right.
acknowledge it in the movie. It's just in the background.
Exactly.
I like that. That's good stuff.
Apparently, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's just in the background that really adds that extra something.
Yeah. Like I said, I hadn't seen this in a long time. The more I was watching, I was like, God damn, man. I've seen this movie like 20 times. And I'm noticing shit for the first time.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Although I haven't seen it 20 times. But like I said, it's been so long that not just triggering memories, but noticing new things.
Absolutely.
Things that I know I didn't see or pick up on the first time.
I like when Newt gets taken by the alien and Ripley's freaking out and Hicks just grabs her and he's like, I believe you. We have to go. It's like, yeah, you don't have time to play here. You got to haul ass. It's just, little stuff.
That's another one of the iconic shots is Newt in the water and that xenomorph just comes up behind her out of the water. Just amazing.
Yeah, that's one of those that you could just take a still image of that and that could be like a poster on your wall. Because it just looks phenomenal.
And of course, I guess the most iconic line, some people might argue it's game over, but I think most people would say it's get away from her, you bitch.
Man, speaking of wishing I'd seen it for the first time, when she came out with that loader at the end, goddamn, that's another one of those scenes. And I'm like, I'll never think of something that cool. Like that is just, I don't know how they did it either. Have you seen any special features on that? Was that like
I
wires?
have not watched any of the special features, so
it looks great.
And I was wondering that the whole time.
Like I'm watching that now. Like I don't know that you could make that look more convincing now. I mean, it looks like she's using that thing, like she's in a mech.
And they set it up all the way at the beginning.
Yeah.
When Burke goes to see her in her little cubbyhole apartment, he's like, I know you're working on the docks, running the loaders and the forklifts.
Yeah.
And then we see her show that she can do it when they're loading up the ship. And it all pays off in the end.
Yeah, I would be curious. I might look that up after this. How did they do that? Did they have wires like hooked up to the arms? Was it lightweight?
The disc is still in my Blu-ray player, so I'm definitely going to be watching the special features and shit.
Yeah, I mean, if it was wires, because she's in front of that queen alien. I mean, that thing had to be all wires. There was so many limbs and the tail going and shit. So there must have been a hell of a lot of people working that scene. Because, damn, it's still that I was shocked how well that still held up. That whole fight between them and when they fall down the airlock, that looks just phenomenal.
Now, are you into like the extended stuff, the books, any of that, the comics, any of that stuff as far as the Alien universe?
Not much. I listened to an audiobook from the Alien universe for the first time last year, and I really liked it. So I've been thinking about getting into it more and seeing kind of where it's gone, but I actually haven't done a whole lot.
Do you remember which book that was?
God damn, putting me on the spot. I will have to look that up and get back to you. I do not remember the name of it.
God,
who did that? Who wrote it?
Because I have.
It was recent. It was an audio drama. Yeah, so it was really cool. I think it was an Audible exclusive.
There, over the past few years, they've been putting out new stuff, new books, and I believe they're supposed to be canon.
That's
one of
interesting.
one of them tells the story of LV-246 or whatever it is being overrun. We get the story of
Okay, that sounds like that could be pretty cool.
they're there terraforming and what happens, how it, and Newt's in it a little bit because obviously she's there.
Sure.
I liked that one. There's one called Alien Phalanx
I've heard of that.
that is really cool. I thought it was great because it's like this medieval world with xenomorphs.
That's interesting.
So it all makes sense once you read it, but essentially there's castles and keeps, and they use swords and arrows and spears, and there are these black demons on their planet.
I think that would be a pretty tough situation to win.
They have to invent the phalanx to fight, but yeah, I thought that was really, really good, and I would not want to give away anything, but the ending is wild.
Are they getting known writers to do these?
Yeah, that one was Scott Sigler.
Okay.
Who was
yeah, he's a good writer.
And then the other one, there were three that came out together, and I want to say it was James A. Moore did one, Tim Levin did one, and I can't remember who did the third one.
So Tim Levin, that's what I read. Out of the Shadows, an Audible original drama. That's what I listened to.
Okay, that's one of those of the first three that came out of this sort of new series.
Okay. I really liked it. I thought it was great.
And then he also wrote an Alien versus Predator trilogy.
Okay, you're speaking my language.
Which I liked. And like the first book kind of focused on the aliens, second one focused more on the predators, and then the third one brings everything together.
Okay, so is it better than the Aliens vs. Predator movie?
Absolutely.
That's a low bar.
Yes.
Got it.
And then I just recently got this.
Okay.
Which is, okay, I'll just read what it's the unproduced first draft screenplay by William Gibson, novelized by Pat Cadigan.
Yeah, have you read it?
No, I have not read it yet. It is high on my TBR.
So is this not the Alien Planet one then?
I think it's Earth. I don't know, but the only thing I can tell you for sure is Newt and Hicks live.
That is probably the main reason, other than it's not very good. I don't like Alien 3 is you get rid of Newt and Hicks and just do like a completely new like, what are you doing? Oh, it drives me crazy. So
this, let me see, what is the copyright on this? August 2021.
Damn. Okay. That is fresh.
Oh, it is. Okay. So Out of the Shadows, Tim Levin, Sea of Sorrows, James A. Moore, River of Pain, Christopher Golden. So it is Christopher Golden wrote the other one.
Okay.
Which might be the one that takes place on LV-246.
Christopher Golden. How much do they have to pay him to do that? That guy makes a little bit of money writing his own books.
Yeah, he does a lot of media tie-in stuff, though.
Huh.
I think the first stuff I ever read by him was a Hellboy novel.
No shit.
Possibly Buffy.
Either they're paying him a lot or he likes to do it, because I mean his self-published stuff, and I mean that dude sells a couple of books.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's done Buffy, Hellboy, Daredevil, Alien, all sorts of stuff.
I'm gonna have to read more of this. I've wanted to do that, and I've wanted to read some Predator stuff because I love Predator. I mean, that might be one of my favorite movies ever. I thought about doing it for this, because I don't know that I've ever talked about my love of that movie, like in an interview or anything. But there's basically been one good movie, and like two decent movies, and the rest are shit. I just feel like they have not on film really captured it, and I'm hoping in books it's much better.
I want Michael Biehn to do a Predator movie, so he'll have the trifecta.
There you go.
But I have some of the old Predator novels from when Dark Horse had the comic book rights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some newer ones. But aside from the Alien versus Predator that Tim Levin did, I don't have any of those. But yeah, I loved Predator. Saw it in the theater when it was brand new.
That was maybe the first horror movie I'd ever seen a scene from. I remember my dad was watching it. He'd rented it. He wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to watch it. And I was going past the living room, and I looked in right at the scene when Carl Weathers' arm is cut off, and that shit like scarred me for life. So that was like my first interaction with something that gory, and it's just always stuck with me.
Nice.
And now it's just 80s super violent, awesome cheese. And also, it's kind of an undercover horror movie that people don't give it credit for.
Oh, sure.
But, yeah, I'll have to read more of the extended universe on that.
Now, are you do you play like tabletop games of any kind?
I do not.
Because there's some really good Alien games as well.
Yeah?
But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's actually a new one, Fate of the Nostromo. That's a lot of fun.
Okay. Like how long are we talking to play a game?
An hour or less.
Well, that's not bad.
You play one of the characters.
It's worth getting? I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
It sells at Target.
Okay.
But yeah, you play one of the characters, and you're trying to. There's different missions, and so every game is going to be different, hopefully. And there's an alien running around. You're trying to complete the missions and avoid the alien, and you can play the advanced version with Ash running around trying to mess you up too.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
It's a lot of fun. All right. So any final thoughts on the movie?
It's great. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's really worth going back to. I was shocked how well it holds up, but definitely watch the theatrical. Other than apparently not having a mention of Ripley's daughter, the theatricals, it's just paced better. They cut out a lot of the special effects that don't hold up as well. But otherwise, I mean, I was really surprised at how much I liked going back and watch this. I mean, I love the movie, but all the little character stuff I picked up on this time really, really surprised me.
Great. Very cool. Yeah, I loved watching it again. All right. Anything you want to plug?
I write books. I make videos. I do podcasts. Author JasonBrant.com. You can find all of it. Take your pick.
Right.
Free books. Everything else is free.
Okay. And any place, where else, if you want to say, can people find you online?
I mean, I'm on all the platforms. I don't post on social media all that much, but I check it. So if people message me or tag me, I always see it and I'll respond to you and interact. And it's fine. Even everyone who comments on my YouTube channel, I will respond. So far, I mean, as it's getting more comments, it's getting a little more difficult. But I try to thank everyone or crack a joke with everyone. So. I'm really on most of the platforms except like TikTok and all that shit. But you can find links to everything at my website, authorjasonbrant.com.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to do my little outro here. So, folks, thank you to Jason Brant for being here. If you folks out there have any comments or questions, put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do all that stuff. And that's it. So I have been Eric Smith. This has been Jason Brant.
Bye.
And until next time, read more books.